Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham Blog and to a special version of the Tottenham Hotspur Transfer Roundup because we've got guests and we've got so much to talk about. Things have really kicked off in the last hour with updates on Tanguy Ndombele, Stephen Bergwijn and Adama Traore. So we're going to dive into all of those. If you are new to the channel, my name's Matt and I'm a senior soccer analyst for Opta and Stats Reform. And basically, we talk transfers. And with us today, first of all, we've got Josh King. Josh, an absolute pleasure to have you on the channel. How are you getting on today, my friend?
Good. Finally made it to the big time. Matty Hayes.
Thank Brian Daigle for that every single day.
Yeah.
As well, we've got David Harris, the Irish Hotspur, back on the channel. David, incredible to have you back on again. How are you getting on?
No, absolutely buzzing. I mean, look, I love coming on here talking transfers with you. I love streaming with you in general. I mean, you know, it's always a lot of fun. But look, thanks for having me. And it's a pleasure to be on a stream with Josh as well. It's going to be a good one. So everyone sit back and enjoy it.
Too, absolutely do. Look, we got all the regulars in the live chat. I can't get to all of the comments because we need to get stuck in now. We've got a Newcastle fan here who's nervous about our Diego Carlos update, which we'll have a little bit later in the show. Look, let's dive straight into things. And we've got some good news, I suppose, in terms of Tottenham's planning for this window, and that has come first of all today from Jack Pipbrook of The Athletic, and he has said that Paris Saint-Germain are interested in taking Tanguy Ndombele on loan from Tottenham for the rest of the season. Josh, what's your initial reaction to that news?
Oh, that's amazing if it's true. I just think that it's perfect in so many different ways. He could go there, and even if it's just a loan, he's back in France with all of his mates. He's mates with Mbappe, all the French squad he's mates with. He will probably play better. He's going to be under a manager that believes in him because he's the one that wanted to sign him in the first place. And I just think it's a win-win because either we just get 6 months of his wages off the books and it helps us to sign other players, or there's an option to buy and they end up buying him, or he does really well, comes back to us, and he's got a bit of sell value now because he's played well in the Champions League or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I think that, that's one that we really need to do.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up that buy option because there's a report as well a bit after that. It was, I think L'Equipe were the first to mention it, that PSG and Tottenham are also discussing a possible player exchange in the Ndombele deal. The loan with an option to buy is a likely outcome. And David, my question really is a loan with an option to buy enough for us? Because look, Josh makes the point there that if he plays well with PSG, he can then come back and that sell-on value will be a little bit higher. But there's also the possibility, I mean, looking at what he's done at Tottenham, that he may not play well at PSG. He may have a bad time there as well. And then the stock goes down even more. Do you think Tottenham need to do something with a permanent deal now, whether it's a loan with an obligation to buy or a straight up deal? Or do you think loan with an option is a good move as well?
Do you know what, Matty? I think a loan with an option to buy is probably safe for every party involved, to be honest with you. Maybe not in Tottenham's best interest. But look, with the guy's problems, he's wanted to leave in the summer. Every manager is more or less cast into a side. Conte has completely done it now. He's a bad egg when even Daniel Levy is ready to take a loss on somebody. You know how much of a bad egg he is. And for me, I just don't see where clubs are going to come in and take the risk on this guy buying him because you don't know what you're going to get. He came to the club not fit under Pochettino. Joe's had to run around apartment blocks with him just to get him on the pitch. Nuno, he couldn't get going under Nuno. And same as Conte. I mean, the guy has had every chance possible. And the reason why I reckon a loan would suit us is because every time we play him, he's just putting potential suitors off. He could not care about this club. We know that from the FA Cup game. And look, I listen to a lot of podcasts from managers, players and stuff like that. And one thing I've heard consistently from managers that they say is once you have one bad egg, you have to get rid of it where you can. Because what happens is when other players are not involved in the squad, they get naturally drawn to that bad egg. And then you don't have one bad egg, you have a pool of bad eggs. And it's probably what we ended up seeing under Jose Mourinho ultimately, which ended up probably costing him his job. So for me, I think, look, a loan is more than suitable. But again, you're taking that risk. Is he going to go somewhere else and perform? I mean, I've already heard that he already turned down Napoli. I don't know how correct that is Matty. But, if this guy is serious about playing football, why is he not gone to Napoli and taking it when it's on the cards?
Yeah, he's not serious.
That's the easy answer.
A superstar team, doesn't he?
Yeah, what we're hearing is he's looking for a Champions League team. He wants to be at that top level. But we will come back to Ndombele in a second because we do have a small bit of breaking news. first time I've got to use that graphic this window. I love it. But Lyle Thomas, and thanks to Tyler for pointing this out to us, Lyle Thomas of Sky Sports has tweeted in the last 4 minutes that Tottenham want to sign Franck Kessie this window. Been discussing a free transfer with him for the summer. Antonio Conte is a huge fan, and of course Kessie scored today for the Ivory Coast as they knocked the reigning champions Algeria out of the African Cup of Nations. And look, this is something we were going to talk about later in the show, because Michael McGrath at the Telegraph reported today that Tottenham are considering a move to sign him this month to avoid competition in the summer. And what my initial reaction to that is, look, there's no surprise that's come as we're hearing of developments for a potential Tanguy Ndombele exit, because we've been talking all along about Tottenham needing to sell to buy, or needing to get rid to get players in. And Ndombele going to PSG could have that domino effect already, that potentially Franck Kessie could be coming in to Tottenham this window. Look, it is going to be a deal that's extremely difficult to complete either way. Fabrizio Romano was on the Cheese Room podcast earlier today, and he essentially said the same thing. And David, I know I said it to you a few weeks ago on your channel that from an AC Milan point of view, I'm sure they'd be willing to turn down a 10, 15 million pound bid for a player who's in the final 6 months of his contract, because they're fighting for their first title in 10, 15 years. So they'll take that loss in order to keep him. But Josh, what are your thoughts on Kessie and a potential signing for Spurs?
I think he'd be a good signing. I'm not going to pretend that I watch Serie A every week or anything like that. But the little bits I've seen of him, I remember watching him against United in those 2 games as well. He was brilliant. I think he scored one of them as well. And he's that kind of all-round midfielder. He's one of those midfielders that I feel like a lot of people get confused. Like, people think he's a DM, or I've heard people say, oh, he's an attacking midfielder. He really is just an all-round midfielder. And he's better technically than a lot of what we've got. Like, I think he'd perform that. I'm not saying he's better than them, but I think he'd perform as an all-round midfielder better than probably all 3 of our main midfielders at the moment. But I can't see why he would choose to come now in January when he's going to get a big sign-on bonus in the summer. And like you said, I can't see. I haven't looked at the table recently. Are AC Milan that close to Inter?
I know at the end of December or start of the month, they were right up there at the top. But let's have a quick look now to double check. But they have been in the mix.
Oh, are they? Okay.
They're 2 points off Inter at the moment.
Oh,
yeah,
fair enough. Well, yeah, I can't see it happening then, unfortunately.
Yeah, look, that was my fear from minute one. And you talked there about the style of player that he is, and I don't think he's the perfect player for what we need, because I think we need a bit more ball progression. If you're going to balance with Højbjerg and Skip, I think we need a playmaker or a number 10. But if we're talking about someone to potentially replace Ndombele and replace one of those players in the midfield, I think Kessie offers what they have, and certainly more than what Højbjerg has had in his poor form lately, but with that added ability to move the ball forward and to get involved in attacks. David, I know you've spoken a lot about him, so you want to give us your thoughts on him?
Yeah, look, with this one, Mac, I'll be honest with you. I call bullshit on it, to be honest with you. I just can't see why AC Milan would be willing to cash in. Like you said on my channel, if I was AC Milan, I'd roll the dice and let him go for free at the end of the season if that's what you want to do. But I would not let him leave now, especially since he's right in they're right in the title mix and he's a key player for them. Look, with Kessie, I'm not his biggest fan, but I can see what he'd bring to Tottenham. I mean, he's better than Lo Celso, better than Dele Alli, in my opinion, better than Ndombele. So he'd definitely come in and help. And I just think Sky Sports are making this up, to be honest with you, to have a couple of rumours about Tottenham to talk about, purely because, I mean, we were already told that AC Milan weren't willing to sell. He's not coming this January transfer window. If we were going to look at him, it was going to be on a free signing with a potential coming in this summer. Now, the only reason why I think this report has been brought around, because it does make sense. I mean, loads of other clubs are going to be in for this guy, offering him contracts and stuff like that. And so they'll probably end up pipping us to the race. But if we do want to get him, we have to stump up the money this January. But we all know that that's not going to happen from Tottenham Hotspur. They're not going to stump up the money that AC Milan want for him. They're going to go in 10, 15 million less. Look, he reminds me a bit like Moussa Sissoko, but with better ball playing ability. He's an all-action midfielder. He doesn't specialise in one area. Look, he'd be an improvement on the Tottenham team, but I do not see him coming this January.
Just had a thought quickly. Is it AC Milan that want Tanganga?
Yes, it is actually.
Maybe that's got something to do with it then.
Someone you need to get on the phone to Daniel Levy there and let him know that. Just another quick update from Charlie Eccleshare and Tanguy Ndombele. So sources close to the Ndombele situation say the expectation is still only around 50-50 that it'll go through. So latest update there on Ndombele. On the comment here, Adam, good to see you tuning in as always. Says Tolisso on a free in the summer can offer that progressive passing, and Tolisso is a great player. I know he's one that Tottenham have been linked with in the past. I think the main concern there is that the likelihood of Tottenham going back in and actually trying to get another player off Lyon after, essentially what's happened with this Ndombele deal, paying 65 million there, and the kind of tomfoolery, if that's the right word, that Jean-Michel Aulas likes to get into. They did it when we were trying to get Lloris as well. But following on from this point, is there a chance that we're focusing too much on this one player and we're missing other opportunities there for a player that could be better suited to that situation? Or do you think just trust in Paratici and Conte? Josh, we'll come to you on that one.
Is that about Kessie, you mean?
Are we focusing too much on Kessie to get someone else?
Yeah, probably. I think that Paratici obviously has got a history of free transfers and transfers for players that are near the ends of their contracts, and there's only a select amount of players that are at that kind of point. I don't think it'd be a bad signing. I do think he's better than what we've got. He's got the physicality to play in the league as well. And you were talking about Tolisso just then. Isn't he on a free, so we wouldn't have to deal with the Lyon chairman? Or
yeah, and do you know what? I'm actually made a mistake there. I think he did play with Lyon. He's gone to Bayern now, so there is even better there. But still, we want to stay away from Lyon midfielders, no matter who we place.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. But yeah, I do think we might be focusing a bit on Kessie. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of who's kind of available for us, though, that wouldn't be out of our price range.
Yeah, that's it. It all comes down to who we can actually afford. And there's all these jokes on Twitter that were like last year the contract FC or free transfer FC. It's smart business. And it's business that worked really well for Paratici at Juventus. There's so many players like Andrea Pirlo. He got on a free transfer when everyone thought he was finished. I mean, that for me is enough proof that he knows what he's doing when he goes for these free deals. But going back quickly to the player that Kessie could be replacing in Tottenham's midfield, a few more reports about Ndombele. And Fabrizio Romano himself has said negotiations in progress for a loan move. PSG could include the buy option. Salary coverage is now being discussed, and I wouldn't be surprised if salary is a bit of an issue in this one. And there was a report, which I hear from Laura Tanzi of RMC Sport, who said Tottenham want PSG to pay 100% of Ndombele's wages. The deal is far from finished at the moment. And I can't imagine finances will be a big problem for PSG. But David, Tottenham demanding 100% of wages paid on a loan deal, it's just not going to happen, is it?
No, it's definitely not going to happen. 100% not. Look, although if any club has the money, I mean, let's be honest, it is PSG. Look at the summer business they've done and what the wages they handed out there. So if there's any club that can do it, it's Tottenham. But look, with this one, I just think Tottenham need to play their cards closely. I mean, you don't want to be scaring any potential suitors for this guy. So if it means you have to pay 50-50, pay it. You're the ones that brought him in the first place, so the burden's yours to take it anyway. But what I would be looking at is if maybe potentially you could even do a swap deal. Get a Paredes out of there. Wijnaldum doesn't want to be there. Get him out of there. You know what I mean? There's other players in that AC Milan, or in that PSG midfield that maybe potentially we could get to come the other way.
Have you seen that Jay Burt just said that 12 minutes ago? He said that they've offered a swap deal.
I think it's something Tottenham are exploring with every transfer at the moment, and even from reports a while ago, Laura Tanzi and Julian Maynard both said that Tottenham haven't tried including Leandro Paredes in particular in this deal, but he doesn't want to leave PSG. And I think for Wijnaldum, it would be a deal that I would love, even if it was just on a 6-month loan the other way. But his wages are going to be really high, and I think it just opens a can of worms that is a little bit too complicated for a deal that is already extremely complicated. If we're going to get Ndombele out, I think we need to do it in a straightforward way to just let it happen instead of doubling and tripling up on these really kind of difficult parts of the deal. And just to touch on the final few reports there, Julian Maynard and Fabrice Hawkins have both said it's a dream for Ndombele to play in Paris. He really wants to go there. So my message to you, Tanguy, is goodbye. Stephen Bergwijn, I want to talk about, and I'm sure everybody wants to talk about Stephen Bergwijn. But before we do this, I want to play a quick clip that I saw on Twitter for the reactions when Stephen Bergwijn put Tottenham 3-2 up at Leicester last night, which, look, we were chatting before the stream. It was an incredible moment. It was such a brilliant moment as a Tottenham fan. I apologise in advance for the language in this one, but just have a look at this.
Shit.
those are scenes that you will never ever tire of seeing. Lucas Moura and the Celta as well, jumping up on the steward's backs. It was absolutely brilliant. But the man of the moment is, of course, Steven Bergwijn. And as I'm sure we all know at this point, there are heavy rumours that he could be heading to Ajax this window. In fact, some suggest that Ajax have had 2 bids already turned down for 15 and 18 million euro, as Tottenham pulled out for closer to the 25 that we paid for him 24 months ago. And unsurprisingly, Antonio Conte has been talking about the player. And he said he offers us different characteristics. He's a creative player. He is an important player. You know very well that the player has to be happy. And I think that the player is happy to stay with us at Tottenham Hotspur. Josh, has Bergwijn rewritten his own script last night?
He needs a 10-year contract, a statue. You know what? just make him chairman. Honestly, after that, that is insane. I don't want him going anywhere. I don't think he's had a good enough chance anyway. He's a young player. He's had injuries. He's moved to a new country. I know everyone's hated on him. I've never really been like one of those that have wanted him gone or anything like that. I think that he's a good squad option. The only reason I was like, it's okay if he goes this window is because I thought it's what Conte wanted. But when you actually piece the puzzle together and you think every time Conte's spoken about him, he bloody loves him. He loves Bergwijn. He always, even when he was injured, he was like, I've told you Bergwijn's an important player to me. He's got skills that no one in the squad has. That's big praise from Conte, yeah? And every time he's played under Conte so far, he's added something. When he came on against Palace, he was good. He ran the show in that first half of the West Ham game. And he's come on for 15 minutes in this game and just, do you know what I mean? He's actually contributing more than, dare I say it, Moura. Like on a minutes to games ratio under Conte, he's wiping the floor with him. Do you know what I mean? The amount of like assists and goals compared to what Moura's done under the same minutes. So I think he has to stay. And I think if I was Conte, I would start him up top with Kane on Sunday. That's what I would do. I wouldn't start Moura. I don't hate Moura. I don't want like people in the comments to think that I don't like Moura or something, but I just think he's not suited to 2 up top and we look better with 3 in midfield. So I'd start Bergwijn on Sunday. Yeah,
John, I really agree with that point. It's something I kind of realised before, because I think on the face of it, it's easier to say Lucas has been better than Bergwijn this season on a whole, but Lucas has worked a lot better in that 3-4-3, and maybe Bergwijn in that 3-5-2 would be a better option there. And Conte said it, I think, before Bergwijn had even played for him back at the start of December. He was asked about him, and he said he sees him as a forward. He sees him as a striking partner for Harry Kane, and the natural fear of Tottenham fans is that, well, Conte saying that and Bergwijn scoring a goal, I mean, Daniel Levy will forget about any potential striker signings. But look, David, I'll go to you. Cranford here says simply, is Bergwijn better up the middle than as a winger? It seems that way to him, and I reckon we'd agree with that.
No, 100%. Look, I think you look at the game against West Ham, you look at last night's game, I mean, he's 100% better through the middle than he is out wide. Look, for me, I don't think he has... For me, what stopped him from kind of performing out wide, especially under Jose, was his control. His technique was poor. I think going through the middle, what he can do is exactly what we've seen in that last minute yesterday. You just make them runs in behind for Harry Kane to play him. You know what I mean? I think that's something that Conte would probably be looking at going forward. But if we've listened to Conte's words more or less since he's got here, I mean, even the other day when he was going apoplectic about, like, telling the board what he wants and he's only a coach, not a manager and all this, he still said about Bergwijn that he really likes him. He sees him as a player he can use going forward. And for me, I just think now you're going to have to give the guy a chance. I mean, I've been a huge critic of Bergwijn. And I hold my hands up, but I'm not taking any of it back because he fully deserved it all. He deserved everything I said about him up until last night. But what he has done with last night, he's given himself a second chance. He's bought himself to the summer transfer window to prove that he wants to be here and that he's good enough to be here. Because up until last night, he hasn't. We cannot forget that. So he's now bought himself 6 months to prove to Spurs fans that he deserves to be here.
Yeah, and I agree. It's easy to say in hindsight, and just use for the example, when Matt Doherty came on in that game last night, I tweeted, Doherty is on, my TV is off. And look, I didn't mean it. But there's that frustration when you see these players and you criticize them. When things turn around and when they play well, people immediately say, well, you were wrong to criticize him. Well, we weren't, because Doherty has been terrible since he joined Spurs. So criticizing him just before he has a good game is bad luck, but it's not wrong. And it's the same with Stephen Bergwijn. And since that game at Anfield, in the tail end of 2020, he hasn't been good enough. He really hasn't. There's a reason that we've been looking to offload him at times, but there's now a reason that things could be turning around and that we may be keeping him. And Sky Sports have said today that Stephen Bergwijn is increasingly likely to remain at Tottenham, and they also acknowledge the fact that Ajax are yet to make an improved offer. And Ryan Taylor of the Daily Express said Tottenham no longer consider Stephen Bergwijn a sellable asset this month. And sometimes it is just moments like that can change a career, can change something. I think we were actually speaking at the start of the stream about that free kick Harry Kane scored for against Aston Villa all those years back that saved Mauricio Pochettino, and look what happened there. And Fabrizio Romano today in the Cheese Room podcast was talking about Christian Eriksen at Inter Milan, and when Conte first came in, Eriksen was signed, all this, he really wasn't that good. Played him in a Milan derby, he scored twice, and he became one of the most important players in that team that won the title. So it is easy, it's not easy, but it does happen that things turn around like that for players. And Bergwijn, there's a clear place for him in this team. There's a place that Conte wants him to play. He's shown now that he can do well in that. It's just a matter of getting that consistency out, and no one's going to expect him to score 2 last-minute goals in every game to get those 3 points. But there's a place there for him, and there's something that he can do. And hopefully... go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, can I just add to the Bergwijn thing? Look, to be fair to the guy, I mean, he got absolutely dog's abuse for the 2 misses against Liverpool. But what he done last night is showing that maybe he has learned from that. I mean, that last goal, he had all the time to think, did he want to put it through Schmeichel's legs? Did he want to hit it first time? Did he want to round him? He ended up making the right decision and putting it in the back of the net. So you have to give the guy credit where it's due for learning from his past mistakes against Liverpool. And that last one's not easy, When you have all that time in the world to decide what you want to do, all these thoughts from Liverpool and all can come back into your mind. But what he did do is he grabbed his bollocks for once. He held his composure and he fucking finished there and got us 3 points. So we have to give him credit where credit is due on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it was Cody Mack made the point on Twitter. I know Adama isn't coming in to replace Bergwijn or play in the same position, but Adama Traore doesn't score that second goal. He never scores that. He fires it over the bar like Sissoko against Liverpool, or he hits the post like Bergwijn against Liverpool. And what I'm learning there is we have really bad luck against Liverpool. But yeah, there's a place for him, and hopefully it starts to get better. Ryland1738 has become a new member. Ryland, thank you so much for joining the championship membership level. Anyone else, if you do want to become a member, hit that join button down below, and everything will be explained for you there. Guys, before we talk about specific signings, just another update that we're getting live has come from Sky Sports to say that Tottenham want to sign Adama Traore for as low a fee as possible. Surprise, surprise. In the knowledge that Wolves want to sell him this month, and there being just a few days left during this window, and I say a deal is heading in the right direction. But before we dive into that in a little bit more detail, Alistair Gold has reported today that Tottenham are confident that they will make at least one new signing before the end of the window, if not more. Now, Josh, we've heard this time and time again. We've always heard this, but is this time different?
I'm in a good mood with Spurs because of last night, and so I'm a bit more positive. I think that Alistair Gold is saying that because that's what he's been told. We all know he's got brilliant sources, but those sources he's so close to the club that he kind of will get things that they want him to say, so they want to appease fans. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's a scenario where we don't sign anyone. I do think there's a scenario where, we tried to go in. Look, we made this bid for Traore, and Kessie doesn't want to come until the summer or whatever. Like, there's definitely that scenario. But I'm hoping when you see what Conte has done with this group of players on a 9-game unbeaten streak, like in the league, it's insane. The highest XG the 6th highest XG of all time for an away game in the PL. Like, it's insane. So you have to back this guy. Like, if Levy gets this one wrong, there's nowhere for him to run at all. I don't want to make this a Levy out stream, but yeah, I think that I'd like to believe that this time is different. Yeah, that's what I'll go with.
Yeah, I think we're probably in this situation every summer, and all the time we're saying the same things. Just a few people let me know in the comments. Well, TalkSport are now saying that Tottenham and Wolves are inching closer to a deal for Adama Traore. And also in the last minute, Sami Mokbel has just confirmed that PSG want Ndombele on loan until the end of the season. So it's all coming out tonight. We're getting all the news.
I think Spurs have had a bid for Traore rejected over the last few minutes as well, Matty.
Yeah, and look, do you know what? We'll dive straight into that. I think there were a few reports that potentially it had happened earlier. John Percy, Simon Stone, and Fabrizio Romano all saying that Wolves have rejected an offer of £15 million for Adama Traore. again, typical Tottenham, penny pinching. It's well known in the press that Wolves want 20. And the interesting thing that I'm noticing now with the latest Sky Sports report is that all along we've been hearing it could be difficult because Bruno Lage wants Adama to stay, but now they're saying that Wolves want him to leave. So maybe there is a discrepancy there between the board and the manager. And what that would suggest to me is they want to do it for financial reasons, which means they may have to take a lower fee. So David, we'll start with you on this one. Is 15 million maybe closer to what we would be expected to pay for him?
I mean, look, we've known the rate. It's the going rate. I think Wolves want 20 million. Of course, Tottenham are going to go in with 15 million. Of course, we are. We're going. Look, I understand negotiations and that have to take place. I understand all that, right? But the thing is, we're at a time now where we just need somebody's in, and all you need is one or two, and we will get top. I still believe we'll get top four anyway. But one or two bodies would really help us push for that top four. And that's all you need. So if that's what you need, just pay the going rate and get the player in. Stop this negotiation crap and just pay the 20 million and get him in. It's cheap. It's cheap enough. It's cheap enough for Traore. So just stop messing about with the deal. Look, I mean, I don't want to. Brian Daigle called it. He's called it on this deal. You know, we're all sitting there. It's going to happen. But Brian said, look, we're going to lowball them. You know, we're going to do every circle around them for ages, and we'll probably get him in last minute window. And it looks like it's exactly what's going to happen. And this is why we're in the situation we are in, because when we want players, we won't pay the going rate. But you can guarantee, even if we don't get Adama, what we're going to do is we're going to take all of his attributes, put them into a computer, and find someone from the Montenegro League, you know what I mean, with the same attributes or with that potential. That's what Tottenham do. And that's why we're in this situation. You just got to pay the money that they're asking. I mean, Daniel Levy's well able to extort other clubs when he's selling players, so he's got to expect it to happen to him back.
Yeah, I want to point out that Daigle also said we wouldn't get Conte in it. So just
true.
Yeah,
that's true.
He's a tattoo to prove that. Okay, before I come to Josh and Traore, but there are 460 people watching. We're only on 100 likes, so absolutely smash that like button. Let's get that up to 150 by the time Josh is done talking. Thank you all for the support. 460 on one of these shows is crazy, but I'm sure it's for the two lads and not me. But Josh, 15 rejected. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was saying earlier at the beginning of the stream or off stream that you only really hear about rejected bids in the press when the selling club. I'm not a transfer expert or anything. It's just, watching loads of transfer stories since I was young. Like, you only really hear that when the selling club is pissed at the buying club, because if it was just a bid that they're willing to negotiate with, then that you wouldn't hear that. They'd just be at the negotiating table kind of thing. But if these reports, these reports that have come out, in the past, like, I'd say hour or so, have any of them actually said that Wolves are walking away or Wolves are not happy or it's far or anything like that? Because if they haven't, then maybe I'm wrong on that and maybe it will happen. If I don't really believe Talk Sport, but I'd like to believe it's inching closer, because I think Traore, I know he's not everyone's cup of tea. I'm not saying that he, would be a world-class signing for us or anything, but I think the amount of space that he could create for some of our, most potent players like Kane, I think that he could really be an asset to us. And Conte's not an idiot. He wants him for a reason. Do you know what I mean? So, and there's no one in the world that can do, literally statistically, there's no one in the world that can do what Traore does. So I'd be excited if he comes in.
And sorry, just to add to that, it's like you got to look at this in a different situation. I mean, look, take away the goals and assists. But what this guy will do is, against the top teams, he will single-handedly get you from one end of the pitch to the other, and he will get you into their half single-handedly. So we can use him for that attribute alone. And of course, what Josh said, he creates more space for Kane, so when he's back fit and stuff like that, because it's someone else for the opposition to worry about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And I always say he's not my number one choice. He wouldn't be in my top 5, top 10 list of players. But if Antonio Conte wants him, get him.
Yeah.
And 20 million is not that much money for a player whose attributes will still mean he'll be worth 20 million in 2 years' time. Because we're not buying him for his end product. We're not buying him for his link-up ability. We're not buying him for his goals. We're buying him for that pace and that power and that potential. And that will still be there, or the pace and power at least in 2 years' time, even if it's only 15 million we have to take. It's a risk worth taking. And Conte, with his history with fullbacks, look, who knows what can happen. We've super chat here from Jerome, who says, we are wasting our time on one player. Just pay the 20 million and move on to a centre-back or another position that's needed. Sake of Levy trying to be a clever negotiator. Jerome, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. And I couldn't agree more. We spent 20 days of this window talking about Adama. And I know other deals will have to wait for sales for them to happen, but why not focus on those sales? Why not get this player in and actually put your attention elsewhere? And you mentioned there's a centre-back, and one centre-back that Tottenham have been linked with today is, of course, Diego Carlos. Now, the links here aren't really coming from Tottenham being in for the player, but it's an unnamed London club that isn't Arsenal, is essentially what we're hearing. David Ornstein said that another Premier League club has made a major offer to Sevilla, the first one being Newcastle. And Diego Carlos to sign the centre-back. Approach understood to have come from a London club, but not thought to be Arsenal. Now, as far as I understand, Tottenham have not made a bid for the player. There is interest there, which I think has been widely reported today. The Daily Mail has said it as well. But in terms of another Premier League club making a major offer, as far as I know, that is not Tottenham. But Josh, Diego Carlos, do you know much about him, or even the kind of general feeling on Tottenham needing to get in a centre-back this window?
I don't know too much about him. I have watched him a little bit, and from what I understand, he's quite rash. And I think that we've already got Romero. Like, he seems like a decent centre back, but it's kind of like in the mold of Romero, but not as good, probably. You know how Romero is quite rash. I reckon Romero is going to have a few red cards for us, kind of like Ramos did, but still be a brilliant centre back. Do you know what I mean? And we don't really need another rash centre back. I'd rather go for. He's right-footed as well. Like, I'd rather a left-footed centre back at this point. So yeah, I don't really want him. I don't really believe it. I think it might even be one of those things where, you know, Paratici really looks at Spain and Italy a lot, and he's probably thinking, what deals can I do? Kind of like with the Emerson thing. There might be a bit of interest there, but I don't think it's serious. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that the key thing is that we need that left-footed centre-back. And Pau Torres is one who's been linked again. It's still going to be a really difficult deal to get done. But I think it always comes back to that if we're in the Champions League, it's better. It's a lot easier to get that deal done. And how do we get to the Champions League? It's by getting deals done now and plugging some gaps in the team now. But David, as far as Diego Carlos is concerned, are you kind of the same feeling that it just won't happen?
Yeah, look, for me, he came over to Sevilla from Nantes, if I'm correct. I think he made 109 appearances for Sevilla so far. He did win the Europa League with them. But look, I agree with Josh. This guy is rash. He does have mistakes in him. And I mean, can we really afford to add more mistakes to already the mistakes we're making? I know we won the game last night, but we still made defensive errors. Honestly, you could have clipped some of the goals and put clown music on it. But look, for me, I just think bringing in someone like him is probably more adding to the problem than solving the problem. If we're going to spend on centre-backs, spend on the right ones. It's a crucial area to get right. The great Sir Alex Ferguson always said, you know, defence is what wins you titles, because you have to keep out the opposition. And for me, look, could he come in and play alongside Dyer Romero and show up defence? Possibly. But does he improve on what we really have? I don't think so. And on that basis, I'd say no. But I also think we could be being used here to get the right money out of Newcastle.
Yeah, look, it wouldn't surprise me. And there's been a few that have actually reported this, and I'm surprised that Sky Sports said it this morning on their transfer talk show, and I'm surprised that no one actually picked up on it. And David Ornstein then tweeted it out as an exclusive, and he said, "Oh, I didn't realize it was actually Kave Salakal." I'd said the same thing last night. So it's weird that this is kind of one that's going under the radar a bit, but yeah, I'd agree. I don't think it's going to happen. And in terms of the style of player that he is, during the summer, we've been linked a lot with Maxence Lacroix from Wolfsburg, and I said he's the exact same as Christian Romero. And having one defender like that there is a risk, Josh, as you mentioned, those red cards. It's like Federico Fazio, but with talent. And if you have two of those in the defence, it's very, very risky. You're going to be exposed so much. And Eric Dyer, as good as he's been this season, and as good as I think he can get with what Antonio Conte has said, he's not the player that you want defending against a 2 or 3v1, because the opposition will score. And it's almost as simple as that. But Diego Carlos, for a lot of people asking in the chat, probably not going to happen. If I was a betting man, I'd put money on it. But I'm sure we'll have other centre-back targets as we let players go this window. Adrian Soroka there, bringing up a player. Spurs are also rumoured to be in for Lille striker Jonathan David. And I've seen two reports, and it was TNC Sports, first of all, a couple of days ago, and Fabrizio Romano said the same thing today, that Tottenham are interested, but so are so many other clubs. It's not a case of Tottenham, being in talks or haven't made any bids. It's simple interest in the player, which is not really surprising because he is doing so well for Lille. I'm not sure if this is a particular problem area for us that we need to identify or need to fix straight away, but I just want to keep an eye on, I'd say. We've Kane the Longshot here with the $5 super chat. Kane, thank you very much to you for that. It's fine to want a deal, but we anger so many people with our haggling. They never want to do business with us again. We make too many enemies every time, and could not agree more with you. Sometimes it works in our favor. there's teams that don't want to negotiate, don't want to try buy from us because of how much difficulty they've had in that in the past. But then there's other teams that won't want to sell to us, and that causes so many problems for Spurs. And sometimes you get good deals. Sometimes you get a Christian Eriksen for 12 million or an Oliver for 15 million, whatever it was. But there's so many times when we miss out on those players. Not only the long-term issues we have, but trying to restructure that Bruno Fernandes deal and ending up with Jedson Fernandes. It's you think Daniel Levy would learn from that, but at this point he doesn't really seem to have done so. Just a few more things. We're saying here that Lloris has signed a 2-year deal. I can't see anything on Twitter just yet, but that is one that is expected to go through. I'd be surprised if he hasn't signed it yet. Paul O'Keefe just tweeting a minute ago, the good news continues. Hugo Lloris 2-year deal, I believe, is now signed.
Nice.
That's huge news. That is huge news. And 12, 18 months ago, I didn't think I'd be saying that. But Josh, we'll come to you in this one because it's massive news. It's not officially announced, just to reiterate. But Paul O'Keefe saying that Lloris has now signed the deal. You have to be overjoyed with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's silly that the club have taken this long to even, do it, but I'm just glad it's happened. I've got a lot of love for Lloris. I don't think he gets the plaudits that all the rest of the team get. Do you know what I mean? Kane's the main man and all that sort of stuff, but he is our only other world-class player apart from Kane and Son. Do you know what I mean? It's those three. So, I'm happy and I'm glad.
David, thoughts on Lloris signing?
Do you know what? I disagree with Josh slightly. I actually think it was Hugo Lloris dragging his heels on the contract. I believe he probably didn't want to sign until Conte came in and seen that the club were going in the right direction rather than the club maybe not trying to tie him down. Because honestly, we know how tight this club is. I can't see them wanting Hugo to go and them having to spend money to replace him. So on that, I truly believe it was probably Hugo dragging his heels on the contract. But look, I'm with Josh and with you, Matt. I'm absolutely delighted he signed a new contract. He's been absolutely immense this year. And for me, since this guy come to the club in 2012, he's restored my faith in goalkeepers. I mean, I grew up watching Ian Walker. I thought Tottenham were never, ever going to have a decent goalkeeper. But Hugo Lloris, he's been absolutely immense. He deserves the new contract. And look, over these 2 years now, hopefully we can win something because that guy deserves to lift the trophy.
Yeah.
He does. If there's any player in this Tottenham team that deserves to have his hands on one, it is Hugo Lloris. And the point you make there, David, I think is so important that people seem to, or at least when Lloris was on that bad form, there's people who seem to say, we'll get rid of Lloris, we just bring in Sam Johnston, or we bring in Nick Pope, or whatever keepers are being mentioned. And it's near impossible to replace a goalkeeper like Hugo Lloris immediately. I mean, there's so few and far between. Lloris has been an utterly incredible servant to this football club for 10 years. He has been, has had some rough patches, but he stuck with his club through thick and thin. He said things that needed to be said, like his interview after that Dynamo Zagreb defeat last year. He said what needed to be said. He wasn't taking anything lying down. And I think without him, the club wouldn't have been on the trajectory it was for 5 of the last 10 years. He's so important. He's an incredible captain, and we're truly blessed to have him. And I think it's a headache gone by getting that deal signed. 100%.
And can I just add, since this new goalkeeper coach has come in, he's been a complete new goalkeeper. He's commanding his area. And one thing I think went very under the radar yesterday was Hugo Lloris's kicking. We haven't really seen too much from him, but when Leicester tried to press our defence, he bypassed it and put balls into Højbjerg, Skip, to Harry Kane. And they found their man 9 times out of 10. So since this new goalkeeper has come in, he's been absolutely unbelievable. And for me, it's a no-brainer. We all know goalkeepers get better with age. And for the next 2 years, it gives us an opportunity to be able to sort out other areas on the pitch. And then 2 years down the line, or maybe next summer or next January, you can maybe start looking for his replacement. We should already be looking for his replacement, to be honest with you. But it just gives you time. It means you don't have to spend money in this area now. It gives you time to improve maybe other areas in the squad that drastically need improving.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you there, and I do apologise for the dogs barking in the background. They've probably seen a bird or something. But we've got a super chat here from Gregory Casey. He says, any views on Lautaro Martinez? I think Martinez, and I said it over the summer when it looked for a minute as though we may actually get him in, he's a brilliant striker. He really is incredible. And if it wasn't for him and Lukaku and the partnership they had last season, Inter wouldn't have won that league. But in the same breath, if it wasn't for Martinez, Inter wouldn't be top of the league now. And I'd love to see him brought in. And we were incredibly close over the summer. I keep on saying, if Chelsea hadn't bought Lukaku, I'm fully convinced Martinez would be a Tottenham player right now, with the financial troubles that Inter were having, and the fact that we were so close, if not had agreed a deal before that Lukaku deal went ahead to Chelsea. And he was at his best under Antonio Conte in a two-man strike partnership with an absolute unit, which is exactly the same as what he'd be doing if Tottenham brought him in and played him with Harry Kane. But it's just impossible at the moment, I'd say. But Gregory, thank you very much for the super chat. I just want to quickly, before we go, because there's 530 people still in here, smash that like button and smash that subscribe button, please. Helps us so much when you support the stream like that. It is completely free. A few quick reports to get through. We're not going to discuss them because I don't know anything about these players, but Gianluigi Langari today has said that Tottenham are considering 18-year-old striker Benjamin Sesko from RB Salzburg. Nothing advanced for the moment. Other clubs have made inquiries about him. And Gary Jacob also said that Tottenham have joined the list of clubs interested in signing the Hull City winger Keane Lewis Potter. And adding that to the reports we've seen in the last couple of days of Jed Spence from Middlesbrough and is it Benjamin Mensah from Peterborough as well. Josh, there's long-term planning going on here. You know, it's not simply get 27, 28-year-old players come in, win trophies, and Conte goes. There's long-term planning going on. Whether that's more related with Paratici instead of Conte, who knows? But it's encouraging to see that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think DJ Spence, I remember actually reading about our interest in him like early last year as well, just like one of those obscure reports. So we've obviously, I think it's the club that's been watching him. But after what he did to Arsenal, I'd definitely take a punt on him. But yeah, we need to lower the age of the squad and also stick to some players in these leagues like Championship and Premier League, because you know, I've got nothing against Gil or anything like that, but it takes so long for young players, especially to adapt. So I want to see us make some like Premier League youngster signings, some Championship League youngster signings, and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I saw someone make the point on Twitter today. I'll come to you in a second there, David, but you're looking at Tottenham missing out on players in the last couple of years. So we have been linked with in Jared Bowen, Michael Elise, Eberechi Eze, these players that have come up from these lower leagues that Tottenham have been looking at maybe trying to get a deal done. And we regret not getting those done now, but it's good that we're really starting to or I suppose continuing to look at these players. What are you going to say there, David?
The long-term planning comes from a guy called Chris Perkins. Everybody look him up. We signed him in the summer and it went under the radar. He was specifically brought in to find the best young talent between 16 and I think it was 21 around Europe and get them into Tottenham Hotspur to develop. That was his specific role. He done it at Everton. He done it at Derby. He was responsible for bringing through like Bogle, Jason Knight and stuff at Derby. And we've brought this guy in, and basically what he's going to be doing is identifying these players, hopefully getting them in, but then also looking after their career while they're at Tottenham in terms of when they're on loans and stuff like that. And you can already see it happening because we got in that young left back from Southend or whatever it was not so long ago and stuff like that. So you can already see that we released one as well, I think. So you can already see that they're trying to transform that underage system and get the players coming through. But Chris Perkins is your guy. Look him up. I called it in the summer. I did speak about him.
I love it. Just to recap on those deals, we have brought in Charlie Sayers from Southend, who kind of was a replacement for Dennis Serkin, who went to Sunderland, and Sayers actually scored his first goal for the club at the weekend. Rafferty Pedder is the youth product that we've let go, along with Kian Etete going out on loan to Cheltenham. But I'm going to ask you one big final question, lads. And before we do that, I want to remind the 513 that are here to hit that like button and subscribe. We're on 12,138. So let's get that up to 150, just 12 more of you to go. So I'm going to ask you a question. They're going to plug whatever social media platform you want people to follow you on. Josh, do Spurs get top 4 this season?
Yes.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Where do you want people to follow you? Twitter?
Oh, yeah, Twitter, at Josh Kincoys. You can see it right there below my head.
Everyone head over there and follow Josh. He puts out some good stuff on Twitter. You may find him on We Are Tottenham TV as well sometimes. I know they don't need me to plug their channel, but head over, show some love. David, do Tottenham get top 4? And I'm sure everybody knows where to find you at this point, but just remind them.
Yeah, look, 100%, Matt. You know me, I'm a believer. I never stop having faith in this club. I always believe the impossible is possible. Look, Harry Kane's going to have a way better second half of the season. Sonny, poor, although scoring goals was poor first half of the season, he's going to come back injured. He's going to have a better second half. Højbjerg owes us as well for some of his poor performance. He's going to have a better second half of the season. Dyer and Romero to come back and to shore up that defence. We won't leak as many. Harry Kane back to his best. He's going to keep scoring. So top four is coming. Honestly, there's not long, many more stops to get onto my top four train. There's 2 more stops. After that, people are not allowed on. And then when we do get top four, I don't want them celebrating it with me because they didn't jump on it early. But look, if people want to find me, look, if Højbjerg or Harry Kane make their hairs on your neck stand up and maybe give you a bit of a rock on, the Irish Hotspur is your home. So get over there and smash that subscribe button.
Everyone, you know where to go. I tuned into David's watch along after the victory last night, and the chat was absolutely insane. It was like 900 people in there at one point. You don't want to miss out on that. There's incredible stuff there. Just some brilliant stuff with Jack Kinnicky as well. So do make sure to go over and subscribe there. Be part of the RB that's going to make him pass me out in subs, as I told him from day one. It will happen, but he's not as confident.
I won't, lad. I'm struggling to get to 6K, to be honest with you. It seems like an eternity. But look, I do want to take quickly, if people can get over to the second channel and check out the Flat Cap Your Talk. A lot of these players that we talk about, we do compilation videos, highlight videos, and tell you a bit about the player. It's no longer than 15 minutes, so you'd be the most informed player on that, or informed person on that player. So do get over and check that out. That's Flat Cap Your Talk, one of these bad boys.
Absolutely, head over there. And I do want to say, if you want to see more of these shows on the channel, if you want to see more of these 2 on the channel as well, make sure to hit that like button down below, so I do know exactly what you want. And like I said, hit that subscribe button. Everyone has said there, Alistair Goal is uploaded, which is probably why my numbers have gone down by about 100 in the last 10 minutes. We still have 450 watching. Everyone go over and go into Alistair Goal's comments and say, go on Matt Hayes' YouTube channel. Right, we've tried it on Twitter, we've tried it on Facebook, it's not worked. Head over and let him know where you want him to be. But for now, from me, from Josh, and from David, as always, thank you so much for watching.